Good evening. My name is Matt Pulowski. I'm a student at Grand Canyon University, and I'm currently in class CYB 630. Today I'm going to be talking about the Fair Information Practice Principles, or FIPPs. The topics I will be discussing today are the Fair Information Practice Principles. There are 8 principles: transparency, individual participation, purpose, specification, data minimization, use limitation, data quality and integrity, security, accountability, and auditing. I will also be comparing the Fair Information Practice Principles to other privacy policies and discussing how is FIPPs useful and how can a federal agency use FIPPs. First, I will be discussing each of the FIPPs principles. The first principle is transparency. This is being clear about the policies, providing notice about how the information will be collected and used to the user prior to them granting consent. The second principle is individual participation. This step means that individuals should be involved and individual consent should be sought to obtain the personal identifying information. Next is purpose specification. In purpose specification, the department should outline their authority to collect the information and should let the user know of the intended purpose for collecting the information. Next is data minimization. In data minimization, only the data that is directly relevant and necessary to complete the purpose should be sought. That information should only be retained for the time needed to actually fulfill that purpose. The next principle is use limitation. This means that you should be only using the data for the purposes that are specified. Any data that's shared outside or to outside agencies should be relevant to the purpose for which it was originally collected. If you intend to use that data for a different purpose, you must go back and ask for consent to use it for that purpose. The next principle is data quality and integrity. This is ensuring that the data that is collected is accurate, relevant, timely, and complete. The next principle is security. This means that any data that is collected and all personal identifying information should be secured against loss, unauthorized access and use, destruction, modification, or other unintended disclosures. Finally, the last principle is accountability and auditing. This means that the collector is responsible for complying with these principles, for training employees and contractors to use them, and to verify that there is compliance with these principles. When discussing FIPPs versus other privacy policies, it's important to note that FIPPs were first created in the Privacy Act of 1974 and were further developed in 1981 in the Guidelines on the Protection of Privacy and Transborder Flows of Personal Data. Because they are so old, FIPPs have been incorporated or adopted into many laws and regulations. Some of those are the European Union's General Data Protection Regulation and the California Consumer Privacy Act. In those two cases, the FIPPs were adopted wholesale with all 8 tenets. It should be noted that individual FIPPs have also been incorporated into laws and policies. Canada's Personal Information Protection and Electronic Documents Act and Hong Kong's Personal Data Privacy Ordinance all include certain FIPPs. FIPPs are very useful in today's marketplace. One of the ways that they are useful is through reducing risk through engagement. The FIPPs give consumers the control, autonomy, transparency, and engage them in managing their own risks. This reduces risk to the privacy because the users that are providing the information know how their information will be used and shared and know that their information will be protected. This results in increased trust. FIPPs can help foster trust between the users and the organization, since users know exactly how their information will be used, by whom, and for what purpose. Now we'll be discussing how some of the principles are used by federal agencies. The first is transparency. Transparency is used by having the privacy policy posted on the websites and by specifying for what the information will be used. Individual participation. Individual participation means that each person that's providing information must agree to provide it. This can be obtained verbally or through the website, but it must be provided. Purpose specification. This means that the data that's collected will be used for a specific purpose rather than just collected and stored indefinitely. This also includes that the data will be purged after that purpose has been completed. There should be systems in place at every federal agency to verify that the data is being purged once that purpose is complete. Data minimization means that the data that's being collected should only be the data that is necessary to complete whatever purpose is assigned. Therefore, when each purpose is created, there should be a list of the data that's needed and no additional data should be collected by the agency. The next is use limitation. This means that the federal agency is limited to use the data for only the purpose that it was obtained. If the data needs to be used for another purpose, then the individual must agree to have their data used for that reason. The next is data quality and integrity. Data quality and integrity means that federal agencies are able to verify that the data that is provided to them is complete, accurate, and timely. This can be by providing additional documents and other forms of proof. The next principle is accountability and auditing. Accountability and auditing are important because this means that the agency is responsible for maintaining the data. It also means that they're responsible to audit and make sure that the data is being used properly and that all the principles are being followed. The final principle is security. Security is important because the agency that obtains the data must secure it. They must provide adequate security for all the personal identifying information. This is obtained through other cybersecurity protocols, everything else that we. Thank you for watching my video. Please refer to these references if you have any additional questions. These are some of the references I used to put together this video. Thank you.